Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
So glad you're here. Welcome home. Oh, good morning. Oh, it's so great to be here today.
Oh my gosh, that was so great.
So, today is a very special class because today we're going to be talking about the thing that most people look at in their lives as probably the most challenging. So to deal with this today is going to be a really awesome thing because it's great to go after something that's a big obstacle in your life, and I feel like it's what that was for me, and so I know a lot of other people who've had that challenge, and we will get into that in a minute. But right now we're going to talk about our essential oil. We're going to start with our essential oil today, and that essential oil is Wintergreen. Wintergreen is a really wonderful, bright, happy oil that's often used in like toothpaste and other flavorings, but now they can produce the chemical that is wintergreen oil artificially, and so they do. Welcome. Welcome.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
So we're starting with wintergreen essential oil here, so put on a little bit of that while we talk about it. So glad you're all here.
Oh, we changed the color.
So, wintergreen is great for massages because it wakes you up, it gets you alive, it gets you feeling, gets things moving, and that's really important where what we're going to talk about today is concerned. You look so beautiful today, Donnell. Look like you've had like just the refresher course.
I'm feeling much better.
Okay. It has a little bit of skin sensitivity, so you may, if you have skin sensitivity, you may want to dilute it. It's really good to diffuse. It just lightens any room. And make sure you check the description, and I will have the handouts in there for you to download and print. And you've been able to do that, right? Great. Okay, so it brings a little bit of clarity, a sweet minty smell that's a little bit evergreeny. It smells clean. It promotes an uplifting and stimulating effect. It masks unpleasant odors. So if you've got a bad odor somewhere, it's good for, like in a bathroom or something, it's a good place to diffuse it. It's good to put in the bathtub. And it's good for skin blemishes. So that's just a few of the things that wintergreen has been shown to be helpful with. But the main part of what I like to talk about is its emotional qualities. Hi, Peyton. Wintergreen is the oil of surrender. And I like this because it talks about surrendering to something higher, something better. Sometimes we want to be so right that we're not willing to look at the truth just because we want to be right. We don't want to admit that we might have been mistaken. And wintergreen helps us to do that. It helps us to let go of things that we believed in the past that may not be true, but we've believed them for so long we're attached to them. Like, well, I want this belief, It imbues the soul with this strength and teaches how to let go and be free of the negativity and pain that it's holding on to. The need to believe that life is painful and that one must shoulder it on their own. It helps you to release that. Wintergreen invites individuals to surrender these strong opinions. But, what person born into mortality doesn't have that belief? Most of us do. Wintergreen reminds us that we don't have to do life on our own. There's a constant invitation to surrender one's burden to a higher power. All that is required is to release and let go. Wintergreen teaches that one can turn their hardships over to that power greater than themselves so that they do not have to carry the burden of life all alone. So this is really important where what we're talking about is concerned. Now before I go into that, which I'd like to do right away, I wanted to talk about, just clear up one point that we talked about last week with clearing. I wanted to make sure that you understand that the purpose of clearing is to change lies to truth. And you can't do that if you don't know what the truth is. So God is always pointing us to the scriptures, because in them we have the truth. We have principles of truth. So I look in the scriptures for principles, things that apply across the board, like this affirmation I like to use that says, all things work together for your good when you love God. That's a principle that it applies across the board. So if we look for principles and apply them as we're clearing, that's the healing that happens. Truth heals everything. So when you're looking for, when you're healing and clearing something, that's what you're looking for, is what's the truth about it. So if you don't know the truth about it, you can't really change it. You can't heal it. You can say, well, I don't want to believe that anymore, but you have to know what to believe. And that's where God comes in and the scriptures. So you can get that by personal revelation, which oftentimes it comes because I don't always have a book in my hand, or my eyes are so full of tears I can't read anything. So the Spirit will come and teach me that new truth that will heal the lie that I've believed. So I just wanted to make that clear, because it's not always obvious when you're looking at the lie that you've believed. It's not only always obvious that that is a lie, but if you compare it with what God says, then you can see them side by side and compare and make that clear distinction and let go of the lie. So today we're going to talk about a really important part of living, and that is prosperity. We're going to explain it, and we're going to figure out how to find it, how to achieve it in our soul, how to bring it out in our life, and make it manifest in every possible way. And we're going to start with our physical opening exercise to open our mind and our life to this prosperity. And we're going to do that on the floor. So, prosperity comes through the air. And breathing is the most important way for us to achieve and bring into ourselves physically prosperity. So it's really important, if you want anything like prosperity, that you start breathing. So you can start here in a sitting position and just breathe slowly and comfortably. You don't have to breathe any certain way. Just breathe and focus on breathing. So breathing in and breathing out. Just comfortably, long-lastingly, all the way. Just allow yourself to breathe and feel the breathing. Think about the breathing. And if you're thinking about the breathing, you're not thinking about other things that you're stressing about, because stress is pretty much the opposite of prosperity. And now I'm just going to briefly show you an exercise that I do. We're not going to go through the whole thing right now, but I'm going to show you how I do it. So we lay on our back and put your first hand down on your, like about where your bladder would be, and just breathe in all the way and out all the way. And then put the next hand and keep the other one there. Put your next hand on the solar plexus and breathe in all the way and out all the way. And you're going to do that again with the chest and breathe in and out, and then with the neck and breathe in and out, and then with the forehead and breathe in and out, and then with the top of the head, you're going to cross your fingers and turn them upside down on the top of your head and breathe in and out, and then all the way stretch feet and fingers and breathe that's my breathing exercise. That's what I do to open the body to life. Life and air and breath is part of the first part of the definition of prosperity, which is where we're going to go next. So make sure you breathe. If you're going to work on prosperity, work on breathing. It's so important. So, I forgot that we have a stone. So now that we've done our breathing, we've opened up our soul to the air. Like I said, the air is part of the definition of prosperity, which, who knew, right? But right now we're going to go back to our stone and talk about this just a little bit. I love this stone because of its color. I'm kind of a blue person, and this stone is called Sodalite, Sodalite, Sodalite crystal. It's blue, and this is kind of marbled a bit with something else, but that's the blue of the Sodalite. It's a powerful tool for enhancing your communication. It enables you to communicate what you truly feel rather than what's easy or convenient. It calms, it soothes, it empowers you to be yourself even if it's uncomfortable. It relieves stress and helps you to be calm when you feel nervous, worried, or tense. And when people feel like they lack prosperity, the one thing they get is nervous and tense and uptight and worry. And so this is like the antidote. So we've got our breathing, we've got our Wintergreen to help us let go of things, and we've got our Sodalite to help us be calm. And for the rest of the explanation on the Sodalite, refer to the handouts, because I want to get right into talking about prosperity. Now, typically people equate prosperity with money, which is really silly because prosperity has nothing to do with money. I would say that money is one aspect of one part of prosperity. It's one possible aspect of one part of prosperity, but it's definitely not a definition of prosperity. Although in this world that we live in, a lot of people equate prosperity with money. So I'm going to teach you what the truth is about prosperity, what it is, how to get it, and how that leads to the abundance of every good thing, one of which is money, or one of which might be money. So I think it's important to gain this perspective, because this was the thing that I was lacking. I thought I lacked money, but what I lacked was understanding about what prosperity was. So the first part of prosperity is recognizing where it is. And that's why we did our breathing. Now, right now, we don't have to pay for breathing. You don't have to pay for every breath you take right now. So breath, air, is a symbol of prosperity. The air that you breathe in gives you the oxygen for free, and it keeps your body in oxygen. And
masking that we're doing nowadays.
Masking
is cutting
prevents.
off of that oxygen.
It is. And isn't it cutting off people's prosperity?
Completely.
It is. Okay, so it's very important that we open up the breathing and recognize that the air is very prosperous. It's very generous. It doesn't say, no, I'm not going to give you yours today. No, if you get in the air, you can breathe it. And you breathe it freely. You can get as much as you want, as much as you need, all the time, every time, automatically. It's just there. You breathe, you live, it's there. Now, you can live without food for a couple of days. You can live without water for a few hours, but you can't live without air for more than a few minutes. Air really is our most important nutrient. Oxygen is the most important healing, cleansing nutrient in the body. So you can get that wonderful healing principle for free. So take advantage of it. Be generous with your air. nervousness, worry, stress cut off your circulation and your air. They do. They shut down the body. So the first step in prosperity is to open the airways and allow everything to come in. Now, some people say that God created everything out of nothing. But what they're learning now, even in science, is that everything is already right here. And everything that you can't see, that looks like just air that you can't see, is something. And it's uncreated matter or unorganized matter, and it's all around us. So prosperity is the ability to take that and create out of it. Now, that's one aspect of prosperity. But now we're going to talk about what prosperity really is. Now, the word itself, by definition, prosperity means to hope. And for us, it's to hope in Christ. Because Christ is every good thing. Christ is truth. He is the light. He is every good thing. And prosperity is hope in that. Now, one thing that happens when you lack something, when you're lacking money or friends or whatever, health or safety or whatever you're lacking, what that does is causes you to stop hoping for good things. You go into a state of feeling like, I'm never going to get any good thing. I'm just stuck. I'm here. I'm that. And you define yourself by your circumstances, which look like there's no hope for any good thing, because what you have is what looks like not a good thing.
Which brings me to an exercise that I was brought to this week, and that exercise was to write down the problem that you think is your problem right now that's consuming you, and put it in a box and give it to God. I wrote that down.
That's a good exercise.
It was so freeing. I didn't think about it for the next 3 days. It was so great.
It is good. It is good to take that problem and stick it in a box and give it to God. You can do that mentally. You can do that physically. You can do it in lots of different ways. That's great. So if we know that prosperity is about hope, then the question is, how do we get it here to where we feel it and we live it and it starts to manifest in our life? That's the big question. So the first step in that is recognizing that you don't have it. This is what you don't have. You don't have that hope that good things are coming because you've been trapped by the things that are. The natural man, your human brain, has this weird thing in it that when it sees something, it projects it eternally. It just says, okay, if this is what I have, this is what I will always have. And it does that because it likes to feel safe. And so it says, okay, this is what I've got, so this is what I have to do forever, you know. And it's like a child, and it's very one-dimensional, and all it sees is what it sees. And then it says, okay, well, if this is what I see, then this is what I have to plan for forever. Hope goes totally contrary to that. It says, you may see this, but we're going to hope for this. And it's clear out there with God. And God is this infinite, eternal being that the natural man is like, what? The natural man has no concept of that. And so there's that battle, there's that conflict between your natural man and the spiritual. And that's why so many people, when they get a hold of religion, they go, what? Something that says belief in something I can't see? Science says, to heck with that. We've got to prove only what we can see, guys. You know? Yeah, well, that just means you're going to be dead. You're going to be stuck in death and lack and doubt and fear and unbelief and worry and pain till you die. And you can do that, and a lot of people do. But prosperity is about knowing, believing, trusting that there is something better, and we can have it. And the key to that is the hope or the prosperity. Now, God gave us a plan for this. He said, if you keep my commandments, you shall prosper. So our job isn't to say, great, well then I guess I better start making a lot of money so I could prosper. See, that's what the natural man says. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to prosper so that I can look like I'm keeping the commandments. Like people who said, how do you show love? People like to say that. How do we show love? It's like, love isn't something you show. If you're showing love, you're showing off. You don't show love. You are love. You can be love. And then what you do is love. But it's something that you become. It's not something you show. Because if you're showing it, it's like putting up a picture and going, look at this. See, this is love. Yeah, no. Love is something you become. It's a quality of you and of your soul. And if you are that, then you're not showing it, you just are it. And yes.
One way I like to express it is to demonstrate love, because showing, you're just, like you said, holding the picture, whereas you demonstrate it is you're actually doing something for somebody else in an act of love.
But
So,
only if it is love.
Right.
Only if you are love. Because you can demonstrate and still be,
Then it can be fake.
you can still fake it.
Right.
Because you can say, well, if I do this, that's loving you. You know. So loving isn't about doing or showing. Loving is about being.
Mm-hmm.
Love is who you are. That's who God is. God is love.
And it comes out in the actions.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes,
And it comes out also in the words that are expressed.
yes,
And in
yes.
the feeling that comes
Mhm.
through the words that you have, or the look that you have.
Yeah. For example, when I saw Elder Nelson for the first time, and he just looked at me, and I looked in his eyes, the love just went wham right into my soul, and I felt it, and it struck me, and I was instantly healed of the pain I was experiencing in that moment. And I'm like, wow, what was that? And I had been just sobbing uncontrollably for about 10 minutes. And when I looked at him, instantly, I was like, I'm good. I am good. I'm fine. And I sat up and I was like, no problem here, you know? And it was so strange to me. And it wasn't that he did anything. And that's what I'm trying to help you to see, is that love, prosperity, hope, faith, they're not the things you do or the things you show or even the things you say. That's not what they are. It's a quality that happens in here in your soul. And then, when it's there, then everything you do, everything you say, everything you think, everything you feel comes from that. And yes?
I don't want to be wrong.
Please share.
So I was just thinking about this time where it wasn't necessarily that I was doing something for someone, but I was just in a state of like just positivity and learning as much as I can, soaking things up and whatever. And all of a sudden my sister popped into my head and we had this conversation, and she was kind of in a bad spot. And I think it's more like, if you're in a state of love, inspiration will tell you what to do. If that,
Yes,
that
exactly.
I love that.
Yes, because if you're in a state of love, then you are one with God. And then, yes, he is working through you. And that's why they say in the scriptures, you don't sin anymore. Is because then you're with God, and then everything you do is from God. And you don't take credit, but you also recognize that that's love. That is love. That beingness is love. It's not what you did for them. It was just that soul light.
manifestation of who you are and how the Spirit, Heavenly Father, helps use who you are to do what needs to be done,
Brilliant. Yes.
to show His love.
Mm-hmm.
To manifest it, perhaps.
That's-
To bring that love to them.
Yeah.
So in talking about the love being love, when it says prosperity, I think of flourishing. So like, it's not necessarily riches, like worldly riches, it's also your family's growing stronger, you know, you're putting out, you're feeling what God is teaching, and so like all of a sudden you find this random act of service that you can provide somebody, you know, without even a thought, you just go do it, you
That's
know.
right, that's right.
And so, in doing that, God is going to bring prosperity into your life because you're doing what He wants you to do, and then in that way, He takes care of everything, you know. I mean, we owe everything to God already.
Right.
So if we're doing His will, obviously He's going to take care of us.
Mhm.
You know, it's just kind of that's why I think of flourish, like your gardens grow and
That's
you
right.
know.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's perfect, and I love all your input here because it's helping me to put this together in something that makes sense. Because prosperity is something that manifests itself in our health. If we have hope for good health because we have done that thing that comes from God, you know, keep His commandments, prosper in the land. So as we do that, our health, our relationships, our spirituality, our abundance, our ordinances, our intelligence, and our life, our eternal life, flourish, like he said, and they prosper, or there is hope out there. There is hope of a glorious resurrection. There is hope of health because God has made the promise. We have believed it. We have fulfilled the commandment, and then we have hope that it will come. And that hope, that is the prosperity. Now we've talked about this and we've understood it here. Now what we're going to try to do is to get it to where we can get it down here in our heart and feel it. So once I understood these principles, I woke up one morning and I said to myself, "Self, you don't have that." And not to be unkind to myself, I just finally recognized that I had been thinking about it, talking about it, understanding it, and never really could actually feel it. Because I had so many things from my past that were beliefs that I held that were stopping me from believing in this hope and being able to feel it here. So what I want to talk about right now is some of the beliefs that we have about prosperity, whether it's in relationships or spirituality or abundance or any good thing that we desire. If we lack that prosperity, what are some of the beliefs that hold us back? What can you think of anything that we believe about wealth, about health, about anything that's prosperous or hopeful? And you know, I'm kind of specifically pinpointing the abundance of every good thing in our life, because so many people feel like they're lacking financially or physically, and so there are certain beliefs that keep us down.
One that comes to my mind is like a belief that was taught real big in my family is that, like, if you're not doing back-breaking work, you're not going to be able to make a living.
Right,
kind of
right.
thing, like-
That's a huge belief that keeps people down. Because if you have that belief and you happen to have a really great job that is a desk job, you're going to feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
My husband had that belief, and I
Mhm.
just watched him pare himself down.
Yeah.
And we've just been building him back up to where that now he's getting there to where he can feel like he's intelligent, he can have a good job, it can pay well, and support our family, all of those things. So yeah, that's a huge one.
Or a college degree.
Yes, a degree, yeah. Mhm.
Can't succeed without that.
Uh, What about that wealthy people are snobbish
Greedy.
or greedy or unkind? Yeah, so if you think that wealthy people are bad, then
You don't
are
wanna be
you
that
going to
way.
be putting yourself in there? No, you're going to avoid it.
You know, I mean, you learn that growing up, you know, the stereotype is wealthy people, they don't like to give their money away, they're very rude, they're,
It's
you know,
very common
ostentatious, but
to criticize
I
wealthy
mean,
people.
if you look at, I don't wanna put a church thing on it, but like a wealthy church people, you know, like, J.W. Marriott or any of those guys, John Huntsman, My mom said that she met J.W. Marriott one time at a conference they were having, and she's like, I never would have guessed in a million years that he was a rich guy, because he didn't act like it, you know, like your stereotypical rich guy
Right.
does. And she's like, he was just very genuine, and you know, and she's like, she said the one thing that she noticed was that he had a lot of love in his eyes, like a general authority does, and I'm like,
Okay,
Yeah.
so isn't that what we've been talking
Right.
about? So
Mhm.
when you have that love, God can prosper you and you can hope for a better world. And very often the people who have all of this wealth are the most generous people that we know.
Mhm.
They give millions of dollars, where we, with what we've got, we're like, we can't give because we only have a little bit. But no, it's the generosity of soul that creates the prosperity.
Mhm.
And that's what the natural man struggles to understand. So let's just talk about a few more of these agreements and beliefs. That prosperity is too good to be true. Yeah, that it'll never happen on me. You know, if you believe that, you know, your beliefs are what are going to create what you've got. So changing the beliefs is really about prosperity. That's what prosperity is believing in something better. So it's said in our lesson this week for last week for our Sunday school. He says, lay aside the things of this world and seek for the things of a better. Seek for the things of a better. That means right now,
Right.
seek for the things of your better world. By laying aside what you see and saying, okay, yeah, that's what I created out of my past, out of my lack, out of my beliefs. But now, what would I like to see? What would I like to see now? What can I hope for? What can I focus on for my happy future? Creating that better world out in front of you, instead of just like the natural man going, this is all I've got,
Right.
this is all I've ever gonna got. You know, it's horrible. It's horrible what that does. Because that feels like a very terrible downward spiral. Okay, and what about people who believe that you can't be wealthy and righteous? That rich man can't enter heaven?
Huh. I guess I've heard that, but I never thought that.
Well, yeah, like it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of the
Than a
needle
rich
than a
man
rich
to
man
enter
to
heaven.
enter
That's why it
into
sounds
heaven.
familiar. There's
Uh-huh.
like a saying.
Yeah, so people browbeat Christians all the time about that. It's like, if you're wealthy, you must not be righteous. It's like, so there's a whole lot of beliefs about this, and I'm not going to talk about them all, but I am going to point you to some people who have listed them really well, and when you listen to these, which is what I did, I found dozens of beliefs that I was carrying that I'm like, if I believe that, how in the heck am I ever going to prosper?
Right.
How? It's impossible. It's like you're fighting yourself. You're like, I want to be prosperous, but I believe that this is going to happen, you know? It's like you've got this split personality and you're trying to do them both, but it's not going to happen. So,
Here's one that said to me, anybody who cares about you is manipulating you.
Wow,
anybody who
that's
cares
terrible.
about you is manipulating. Yeah, that's a belief that's going to keep you in that
Yep.
place. And so it's very important that you start to look in your mind and see what you believe. So I just decided one day, I said, okay, I have fought this battle long enough. I am going to take care of it. I'm going to focus on it. You know, I have focused on my health before. I focused on my children before. I focused on homeschool before. I focused on lots of things. But I avoided the wealth issue and the prosperity issue because I was afraid of it, honestly, because I had all these beliefs. Like, if you have all this money, you're not going to be righteous anymore. And I'm like, So I thought, you know what? I have suffered enough. I'm just going to figure this out myself. I'm going to take it to God. I'm going to figure it out. And so he started leading me toward things to watch, things to read, and things to study, and things to do. And the more I did, the better I felt. And the better I felt, I didn't realize that it was just the better I felt, the more I was producing prosperity. Because when you feel good, when you feel happy, when you feel buoyant, when you feel joyful, that's prosperity. that like it is love. There's all kind of one thing, but that love, that prosperity inside you, that feeling is what creates your happy future. It's not just saying words, but it's when you can feel. So as I would watch these videos or read these books, I would get to the end and I'd be like, yes, it just feels so good. And, you know, I didn't feel like I was doing anything, didn't really change anything, except if they stated a belief that I had that they said was going contrary to my prosperity, I'm like, okay, I don't believe that anymore. I'm throwing it out. And I would write a new belief. And that was a pattern with all of these people. They'd say, if you believe this, this is something you can start to say instead. And so I did, and I started doing that. And I wrote down everything that just resonated with me. And I've got notebook after notebook after notebook of things that I wrote down. Just scribbled them. I'd be doing the dishes, and I'd grab anything and just scratch it onto a piece of paper. Because when you write down your new belief, that's the first step toward freedom from it, from the old belief. That's the first step. And the second step is to say it. And the third step is to say it with all the emotion that you've got. And the fourth step is to do that again and again and again. And every time you say it, you get further away from that old belief and closer to your own prosperity. But actually, the instant you say, no, not that, but this, you have now changed your life. Now, if you want to change your life, you have to change your life. What?
One thing that this lady taught me is that you have to put positivity out there to get positivity to come back. The more negativity you put out there, and it goes along with what you're saying. You know, I've come to an understanding that the only way there's good habits and bad habits, and the only way to get rid of a bad habit is to change it with a good habit.
Yes.
So if you tell yourself over and over and over, you can't, it's obviously going to come true. So
Yes.
if you do that one time, and you say, you know what, I'm tired of this, I'm not going to think this way anymore, and you just say it out loud or write it on a piece of paper, and then you've started that step into going, and then you say it again, or you read it again, or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden, that bad habit's gone because it's replaced with a good habit. That's who we are. We're creatures of habit. And so
Yes.
in order to get to that point, you got to change the habit.
Yes, and so it is about change, which is why we did the Wintergreen, because it helps you to let go of things that you've had your whole life. And those are so easy to keep. Like, but I've had it forever.
Right.
My mother gave this to me. I can't get rid of it. Get a trailer and get rid of everything in your house, because things represent beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And you will find that as you change beliefs, you will want to remove something from your house, because those beliefs are almost always attached to something in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And when you remove that, you make room for the new good thing to come in. So if you want a new bed, throw out the old one. Just get rid of it, because moving it makes room for the new one.
Mm-hmm.
But that takes that hope in the better world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the natural man can't have any of this, because he thinks it's foolishness. God, in our hymns, which is our second page here, in our hymns, and this is just a few that came to my mind that I have used, in our hymns he gives us a ton of really great, truthful, positive affirmations that we know are true. These are absolutes and these are true, and we can hold on to these like the iron rod. Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. Okay? That's a thing you can memorize, and whenever you're faced with a thing that you're struggling with, you can just, what you can do is you can just say, cast thy burden on the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. Cast thy burden on the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. Cast thy burden on the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. Okay, I heard a story about a lady who was doing this. She was changing her beliefs. She came to a day when she had to make this huge payment for her payroll or lose her company, and she didn't know what to do. So she took the advice of her mentor and just took the 23rd Psalm, which is also in the song here, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And she spent, I think, something like an hour. And if you listen to the people I recommend to you, you will find this story because it's in one of those videos. She spent about an hour just walking around her office saying that. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Within that hour, she got a phone call. And it was a phone call from somebody, just a random person, who said, I would like to buy your property on this and such place. And she's like, I don't own that. And the guy's like, yeah, you do. And she's like, no. Well, then they called her lawyer. And he said, your dad said not to tell you that you had this property until you needed it. So it's your property and you can sell it. And it was exactly what she needed to pay her payroll. It was exactly. All she did was walk around the office saying, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And you know, when I hear stories like that, that gives me hope. And it helps me to feel it. And I take that feeling and I practice it myself. So what we're after here, let's be clear, is creating not just the thought, but the thought married to the feeling. Because when you have that, then you create the child. Because you have the father and the mother, and that creates the child, which is your abundance, your wealth. And wealth is every good thing. Health, relationships, spirituality, prosperity, every good thing. All your needs are met. It's ordinances, it's the love of God, it's eternal life. All of that is in that feeling of hope. So prosperity is like the seed that births everything. So it's really, really important to obtain that. And that hope is actually another word I would say for trust. And so I'm going to recommend this exercise here. For one whole day, go for one whole day, if you can, with no fear in your heart. And if you feel it creeping in, you stand and say one of these things that are in these hymns.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Or this one at the bottom, I will not doubt, I will not fear. That's the one I used when I was first eliminating that fear from my heart. Because I realized it was like this gigantic root that was rooted to every part of me. And I just paced the floor and said, I will not doubt, I will not fear. God's love and strength are always near. I will not doubt, I will not fear. And as I did that, I could dispel the feeling for a few minutes. And when I felt it creep back in, then I said it again. If I was doing dishes, I said it in my mind. If I was in front of somebody else, I kept it to myself. But I said it and said it and said it to keep out that other feeling. And I could tell the difference because I had now felt that feeling of prosperity. Because when you watch these videos and listen to these books, they give you that feeling while you're listening. And then when you go back into your life, your natural man says, but this is what I see. So you have to take that feeling and say it at your life or at your future and say, okay, yeah, this happened, but that's what's now going to happen. And it's a matter of focus. Practice and focus, just like a singer. You know, you don't get to be a great singer by never practicing. So you don't obtain the eternal life or this prosperity or this love by not practicing. You have to practice it, which is why God sends us to church every week to practice singing things that have positive affirmations in them. I'll go where you want me to go, dear Lord. One day, I was singing that. I was driving from my home in North Dakota to college, and I was singing the song, I'll go where you want me to go, and I was feeling it. I remember that feeling that I felt. It was 35 years ago, but I remember it. And I'm driving along just feeling this wonderful, joyful, I'll go where you want me to go, because I was trying to make a decision. Should I go on a mission? Should I go back to school? Because I had just turned 21, just. And I was coming back to school, but the Spirit was saying, there's something in the wind. And I was like, I'll do whatever you want me to do. I'll drive right back home and I'll earn money and go on a mission. Or I'll go right back to school and finish. Just whatever you want. And I meant it. And as I'm driving and singing that song, it's like somebody grabbed the wheel. Literally. I was like, oh, I couldn't not. And the car just was like off the road. It just went off the road into the snow. And down into the ditch for about 30 feet. And I could not do anything. I'm like, you just did that. And then I said, so what do you mean by that? Does that mean I should go back home? And he's like, well, just wait and see. And I had no money to speak of, just enough to get me out there. I mean, as a college student, I had no money. And so I was in the middle of a snowstorm on my way through the mountain pass, and there was nothing anywhere, but I remembered seeing a light a few yards back. It was about a half a mile, actually. So I got my coat and my bag, and I walked the half a mile, and there happened to be a little hotel and a bar, and I called my mom, and I said my car went off the road. She's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And but there was a bar there. And so as I'm talking on the phone, the guys at the bar this is a pattern with me, I'm gonna have to get rid of it, but they started teasing me. I'm talking on the phone to my mom, telling her I'm fine. And they start making up this story like we're having a party and she's doing this and that and the other. And they start yelling that over the phone, and Mom is having a cow. She is like just beside herself, like, are you okay? What are they doing? I'm like, they're teasing me, Mom. That's what people do to me, you know. So, and they were just, whatever. I never saw them after that, but the lady was kind enough to let me have a night's stay for a discounted price. And the next morning we called a tow truck, and they brought it in for a discounted price because I literally had no money. But he said if you'd gone one more mile down the road and gone off the road, it would have been twice that money. And I didn't have it. So I'm like, well, I'm glad I'm not stranded here, But that morning, a girl came to my table and asked if she could have a ride and breakfast. Because she had no money and no food and no job and nowhere to go. And I said, well, where are you going? And she said, Rexburg. I have some relatives there. And I said, okay, well, that's the direction I'm going then. And that took me back to school. And the next day I met Steve. And we have 12 children. So, that's prosperity. That's, for me, a better world. And I had to trust God through that going off the road and being, slapped upside the head, having no money left. I had just enough to buy breakfast, and we split my little breakfast and said, well, you can have that half, I'll have this half, because we didn't have anything to eat. But I came back, and the police were looking for me. Everybody was looking for me. Life was horrible, and it was the worst days of my life. And my mom called the police, and she was so mad at me when I got back, and so worried about me. And I met Steve, and he wasn't upset at me, and he wasn't angry, and it filled me with so much joy to just know that somebody was there who didn't know that I made everybody in the world mad that day by not calling them every 10 minutes. So anyway.
You didn't have your cell phone then?
No cell phones. No. No cell
Best
phones.
cell phone was the phone
But-
booth on the side of the road.
But the Lord was my shepherd, and he was leading me. And he led me that day to joyfully reach out to my husband and say, let's be friends. And it was the first step on my new life. This was my mission, to bring into the world my 12 children, which I have done. That was my prosperity. It was a hope that I could have a family and I could create something better than what I experienced as a child. And I did. And that's what God wanted for me, and that's what he was leading me to do. Not by telling me what to do, but by giving me circumstances and giving me a choice. And me making the choice to have hope, to believe, and to put that out there. The next one, affirmations from the scriptures. Now, these are fraught with truth, with power. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Memorize the 23rd Psalm. You know, when I'm in bed and I struggle to sleep, prosperity right then in that moment is sleep. Hope for a better world is hope that you can sleep comfortable, that you can sleep happily, that you can feel good and get a good night's rest. And the 23rd Psalm is about that. It's about creating a new life. It's about finding rest. It's about having no fear of evil in the shadow of death. It's about comfort. It's about your cup running over. The 23rd Psalm is the Psalm of prosperity. So memorize it and use phrases that you need, because it's got every possible thing you can face here and every possible solution. And there's a ton of stuff in there. And then Doctrine and Covenants 121. Endure it well, God shall exalt thee on high. Thou shalt triumph over all thy foes. I know the first part, where he says, thy adversity and thy afflictions shall be but a small moment. It's like, that's not all that comforting to me. It's like, yeah, this is going to seem like a small moment later, but not now, right now. So yeah, the next one is more comforting, where he says, endure it well, and God shall exalt thee on high. That's more comforting to me. Thy friends do stand by thee. I've had to hold on that one for a lot of times. Your husband is still there. Just keep trusting. It's gonna be okay, you know. And God has got a ton of these if you're looking for them. So I not only mark them, I mark them in multiple books and keep them in multiple places in the house so that when I need it, I can find it. One day I was having the worst of days, and I was on my bed just sobbing my little heart out. And I remember rolling over and peeking off the edge of the bed, and there was an ensign on the floor, and it had President Hinckley's picture on the cover because he was the new prophet. And I looked at his face, and he looked so peaceful and joyful. It just instantly gave me that feeling of peace, you know? And so put things everywhere in your house that give you that. Have playlists in your music that give you that feeling. Because if you can get that feeling and then you can say the right words, you are creating something. You're putting the man and the woman together, and you are creating a new child. And that child is out there. It may take a few months for the gestation to happen and for you to see the child, but it's out there the instant you have this going on. So you can take my word for that. I didn't know that when I started this journey. I just did it for a year. I'm like, this is fun, this feels great, it feels great. But then my life just started to snowball with prosperity in every aspect of my life until I just feel inundated. It's like, there's not room for all this. Where am I going to put it all?
Your cup runneth over.
It does. It's totally running over so much. I mean, I'm going around like, well, we can put it here. We can put this here. We can give this to that person. You know, we're just trying to so hard give things away because it's just like, and that's a great feeling because I didn't know how to feel that before. But it was that year of just borrowing somebody else's feeling and planting my own little seeds of what I desired. So that's what I'm trying to teach you today, is how to do that. So on this other page with the mentors, mentors of prosperity and other helps. I have a list of people, and you can just go and look these up on YouTube. And I looked up Les Brown yesterday, the first one we have here. I didn't ever come to the end of his videos. I just scrolled and scrolled and scrolled forever, and I'm like, they just keep going. I think people just keep using it and keep posting it because it is so amazing. He, I think, was the first one that I found. I just looked online and I went, prosperity, boom, and started listening, and he is magic in your soul. He can fire you up when nobody else can, and he's got the stories to back it up. And I love him. I love all of these people, and these are people I have treated as my mentor. And you can take one at a time, or you can go across the board and say, well, I'll do this guy and this guy and this guy and this lady and this guy and this, and go across. But what I did was pretty much just one person at a time, because I was like, I really love this, and this is great, let's do another one and another one. And then pretty soon another guy would show up, and I'm like, well, that looks interesting, and I would play that one that day. So I'm doing the dishes, I put on a video. I set up my system so that I've got a little computer in my kitchen and really nice speakers, so that while I'm doing dishes, I can hear it. Because all you have to do is hear it. You don't have to watch it. You just have to hear it. And there are some books in here, like Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, Florence Scovel Shinn, where they're just books that people read. And some are presentations by the people. But they changed my life because they changed how I think about prosperity, about wealth, about health, about life, about everything. And it really is everything. They don't just focus on money because they know it's not about money. It's about how you feel about you, about God, and about everybody else. So they advocate forgiveness, they advocate change, they advocate opening up your heart, they advocate exercise, they advocate all these good things. So everything I've been doing over the past 10, 11, 12 weeks has been built up for this. Because you can't change and become prosperous if you are not looking to change your life. And coming these past few weeks has prepared you for this, so that now you can start your journey and go toward that prosperity in your life, and do it with all the confidence of my witness to you and all of these people to you. And here under other helps now, I have some more things that I recommend that are just simple things that don't cost a lot. Hope Essential Oil. We're talking about prosperity. Prosperity is hope. Hope Essential Oil. It not only smells amazing and gives you that feeling automatically as soon as you smell it, but every purchase goes toward helping people who are trapped in human trafficking. Every dime that they make from this goes toward that, and they have saved hundreds of people now from human trafficking. And in that way, you can not only help yourself, but you can help someone else. And when you do that, that gives you more of that feeling. That's why I put it there, because it gives you more of that feeling that you're not just helping yourself, you're helping somebody else. And that's great. Walk every day. Get outside. The air, the plants, life is abundant and it's prosperous. And when you get out in it, when you breathe the air, when you see the plants, when you touch them, when you experience them, when you get out in them, it gives you that feeling. Get out in nature. Take a drive. Walk in the woods. If you're having a lousy day, drive up to the mountains and just walk in the woods and say, God, help me feel something different. And the trees will do that job. Practice paying your bills with joy. And this affirmation, I think, was probably the most difficult for me to accept. I've written it in here several times, but when I came across the affirmation that said, my bills are the perfect creation of divine bounty now, I was like, what? My bills? And it took me a long time to realize it. I started saying the affirmation, I'm like, a perfect creation of divine bounty, you know. But didn't have the best attitude because me and my bills were like enemies. But I've learned how to make my bills my friends and part of my prosperity. Because if you didn't have bills, you wouldn't have anything. Your bills represent the fact that you have had prosperity. You've had light. And people are willing to let you have it, and then you pay for it. I mean, that's prosperity, that things just come to you, and then you pay for them. And you've spent your whole life in that situation where you've had electricity your whole life, except for a few minutes here and there. You've had heat. You've had lots of other things that you pay bills for, phones, all of that. So as you pay your bills, just really, really, really ask your heart to send love and joy and say, thank you, God, for this bill. Thank you, God, for this bill. This bill is the perfect creation of my divine bounty now. That's probably the most powerful one that I used. And that's why I'm ending with this. Because this is about power. This is about the power of your life to create a new life. That's what prosperity is. It's that hope for a new life. And that's what God tells us to do. Lay aside the things of this world, what you see, and seek with all your heart, might, mind, and strength for the things of a better. Because He wants you to have them. Believe that. Thank you.